Most people believe that a recognizable name guarantees quality, especially when it comes to food. Pasta chains across America have capitalized on that belief, building multi-million-dollar empires on the promise of fresh Italian comfort food. The truth, however, is far less appetizing. Behind the glossy menus, Instagram-friendly plating, and catchy taglines lies a carefully maintained illusion. These chains don't rely on authentic recipes or handcrafted techniques, but on systems designed for speed, consistency, and profit. Every sauce, noodle, and garnish is part of a larger production cycle meant to deliver the same experience nationwide, even if that experience is far from authentic. In pursuit of uniformity, many of these establishments sacrifice the essence of Italian cooking: freshness, simplicity, and soul. When you walk into a pasta chain, what greets you is not the aroma of freshly simmered tomato sauce or the sound of pasta water bubbling on the stove. It's the quiet hum of microwaves, the hiss of prepackaged bags dropped into boiling water, and the efficiency of a kitchen run like an assembly line. Everything is portioned, timed, and standardized to fit the corporate model. Tomatoes that should have been crushed hours ago are instead delivered in industrial cans. Parmesan that should have been freshly grated is processed and stored for months. Even the sauces, once made by chefs, now arrive in sealed containers ready to be reheated. The dining experience is designed not around flavor or passion, but around convenience and profit margins. Consumers often mistake presentation for authenticity. A plate served with a sprig of parsley and a drizzle of olive oil looks beautiful, but tells nothing about how the dish was made. The chains know this and exploit it masterfully. They sell an illusion of Italy, warm lighting, Tuscan decor, and words like artisan or homemade printed on every menu. But the real story happens in the back, where cost control takes precedence over craftsmanship. Pasta that should be made fresh daily is frozen to save time and labor. Sauces that should simmer for hours are prepared in bulk and shipped nationwide. In many cases, even the breadsticks and desserts come from external suppliers, produced in massive factories that have never seen the inside of a real Italian kitchen. The psychological trick is subtle but powerful. When people dine out, they don't just eat food. They buy into a feeling, a sense of belonging, comfort, and indulgence. Pasta chains use this emotion to their advantage. They create nostalgia and familiarity, convincing customers that a pre-packaged meal is an authentic culinary experience. Marketing does the rest. Commercials show slow-motion shots of pasta twirling on a fork, sauce dripping luxuriously down the sides, and smiling families sharing a meal. It's a fantasy that distracts from the mediocrity on the plate. By the time the customer realizes that the food lacks depth or freshness, they've already paid the bill and accepted that this is just how chain food tastes. The hidden truth is that real Italian food was never meant to be mass-produced. Authentic pasta depends on freshness, the texture of the dough, the ripeness of the tomatoes, the sharpness of the cheese. When those elements are replaced with preservatives and pre-packaged ingredients, the entire experience loses meaning. The balance between simplicity and flavor is destroyed. What remains is a factory imitation of a centuries-old tradition. The modern pasta chain doesn't sell cuisine. It sells convenience disguised as culture. Yet the illusion is so polished that millions of people continue to believe they are eating something special. This is the quiet deception of the industry, a carefully crafted narrative that turns real food into a product and passion into a marketing slogan. There was a time when the names Olive Garden, Carrabba's, and Romano's Macaroni Grill represented comfort, warmth, and indulgence. Families went there for special occasions. Friends gathered to celebrate milestones, and everyone expected a plate of rich, satisfying pasta that felt homemade. But over the years, something shifted beneath the surface. What began as restaurants, inspired by the simplicity of Italian cooking, slowly transformed into profit-driven machines, designed to serve more people at lower costs. The ingredients became cheaper, the recipes were simplified, and the authenticity faded away. These once beloved names are no longer synonymous with quality or passion. They've become symbols of what happens when culinary art turns into corporate strategy. At first glance, the decline isn't obvious. The restaurants still look inviting, with their soft lighting, rustic walls, and familiar music. Menus still feature dishes with Italian names and descriptions that promise richness and tradition. Yet what arrives on the plate often tells a different story. Pasta that should be firm and flavorful is limp and lifeless. Sauces that should dance with herbs and garlic are drowned in cream and salt. The balance and soul of Italian food are replaced by shortcuts meant to cut costs and speed up service. Diners may not notice right away, but the food lacks that spark of freshness that defines true Italian cuisine. Instead, everything tastes the same, no matter which location you visit, because the recipes are no longer made by chefs. They're managed by corporate checklists. Behind every franchise location is a playbook written not by cooks, but by executives. Decisions about which ingredients to buy, how long a dish should be cooked, and even how it should look on the plate come from spreadsheets, not from a kitchen. When profits drop, portion sizes shrink. When ingredient costs rise, quality declines. The spirit of hospitality is replaced by a focus on efficiency and sales numbers. What used to be an experience of shared warmth now feels transactional. The staff is trained to upsell, not to create memories. It's not about cooking anymore. It's about maintaining a brand image that feels Italian enough to pass as authentic. For regular diners, this change crept in so gradually that it went almost unnoticed. A meal that was once bursting with character became bland and predictable. The comforting flavors of freshly grated Parmesan and hand-tossed pasta were replaced by mass-produced sauces reheated in back kitchens. The energy of an Italian trattoria, where the chef knows your name and the food changes with the season, was traded for a script, a smile, and a corporate slogan. The intimacy and artistry of Italian food simply don't survive in an environment where everything must fit into a system. Every decision is driven by numbers. How many tables can be turned per hour? How much profit can be squeezed from a plate of spaghetti? How little real labor can go into a dish while still charging the same price? It's a story that mirrors what happens to many successful restaurants that expand too quickly. The original vision fades under the weight of growth. The founder's passion for good food and honest service is replaced by shareholders demanding higher margins. The decline of these pasta chains isn't about bad management or lack of skill. It's about priorities. When business replaces craftsmanship, taste becomes secondary. What once made these places special was their heart, their connection to food made with intention. Now that heart is buried beneath frozen ingredients, diluted recipes, and hollow marketing that still speaks the language of authenticity, but no longer understands its meaning. These chains didn't just lose flavor, they lost identity. What remains is a shadow of what Italian cooking stands for, a brand that sells nostalgia while quietly betraying it. The promise of fast and affordable Italian food sounds tempting. The idea that you can pull up to a drive-thru, grab a box of pasta, and experience a quick taste of Italy feels convenient in a world that moves too fast. But behind that convenience lies a trap that too many people fall into. Chains like Fazoli's and Sbarro have built their business models on speed, not quality. They cater to busy customers who want something that feels comforting, without taking the time to appreciate what makes real pasta special. In doing so, they've stripped away the art of Italian cuisine and replaced it with an imitation that fills stomachs, but leaves souls hungry. What's served isn't food crafted with care. It's a processed version of culture, reduced to a formula that values time and profit over texture and taste. The process starts long before the food ever reaches the counter. Most of the pasta used in these fast food chains isn't made in-house. It's produced in bulk at industrial facilities and frozen for distribution. The sauces come in pre-sealed containers, already mixed with preservatives to extend shelf life. Even the cheese, the one ingredient that should breathe life into the dish, is often pre-shredded and vacuum-packed, losing its natural flavor and moisture. Once these ingredients arrive at the restaurant, the preparation is mechanical. Employees follow strict instructions, timing every step to ensure consistency rather than creativity. The result is food that may look appealing, but lacks freshness, depth, and the delicate balance that defines real Italian cooking. Speed is the selling point, and that's exactly what ruins the experience. True pasta is not meant to be rushed. It requires patience, the careful boiling of water, the precise timing that leaves noodles perfectly al dente, the gentle stirring of sauce as it thickens and absorbs the flavors of garlic and herbs. In fast food kitchens, there's no time for that kind of attention. Pasta is boiled in advance and stored. Sauces are reheated in bulk, and everything is assembled within minutes. The process ensures quick service but destroys the integrity of the dish. What you end up eating is pasta that's soft, heavy, and drenched in overly salty sauce, created to mask the blandness of its ingredients. The health factor is another hidden problem. These chains rely on sodium, sugar, and processed fats to create flavor where freshness is missing. A single serving can contain as much salt as an entire day's recommended intake. It gives an instant sense of satisfaction but leaves the body sluggish and dehydrated. This is how the fast food pasta trap keeps customers coming back. It delivers short-term comfort that fades quickly, pushing people to crave more without ever feeling truly nourished. The psychological pull of convenience and taste overrides the awareness of what's actually being consumed. It's not about feeding hunger anymore. It's about feeding habit. There's also an emotional element that these chains exploit masterfully. The image of pasta carries warmth, family, and comfort. It's tied to tradition, home-cooked meals, and gatherings that bring people together. Fast food pasta chains borrow that imagery, but offer none of the meaning behind it. The nostalgia of Italian dining is repackaged in disposable containers and served through a window, stripped of culture and connection. For many people, it's a quick fix for a long day, but it's also a reminder of how easily marketing can replace authenticity. The very thing that made Italian food beloved, the care, the patience, the respect for ingredients, is absent. This is the danger of the fast food trap. It teaches people to settle for less and call it normal. It convinces them that pasta is supposed to taste this way: thick, salty, heavy, and forgettable. Over time, real flavor becomes unfamiliar, and mass-produced food becomes the standard. What these chains offer isn't Italian cuisine. It's a performance of it, a convenience-based illusion that sells comfort without delivering quality. The tragedy is not that the food is bad, it's that it's made without heart, served without soul, and eaten without awareness. In a sea of mediocrity, there are still a few pasta chains that manage to hold on to the essence of what makes Italian food special. While many restaurants have traded authenticity for convenience, some brands continue to believe that quality, freshness, and care are what bring people back. North Italia, Buca di Beppo, and Bravo, Italian Kitchen are examples of chains that have resisted the urge to over-industrialize their menus. They've found a balance between accessibility and artistry, proving that it's possible to grow a restaurant brand without completely sacrificing the soul of the cuisine. Their success is not based on speed or flashy marketing, but on respect for ingredients, consistency in preparation, and a genuine desire to give diners an experience that feels honest and flavorful. The secret behind these safe chains lies in how they approach their food. At North Italia, the kitchen still prioritizes making pasta by hand, creating a texture that feels alive compared to the limp, processed noodles found elsewhere. Their sauces are prepared daily, simmering long enough for the flavors to deepen naturally. You can taste the freshness in every bite, the subtle acidity of ripe tomatoes, the warmth of basil, and the richness of olive oil that hasn't been diluted for cost-cutting purposes. Buca di Beppo follows a different but equally admirable approach. It leans on the joy of family-style dining, where meals are meant to be shared, and laughter is part of the flavor. The portions are generous, the atmosphere unpretentious, and the dishes, while simple, carry the kind of comforting energy that reminds people why Italian food became so beloved in the first place. Bravo! Italian Kitchen brings a more refined touch. Their kitchens use fresh herbs and seasonal ingredients, and the chefs have enough creative freedom to adapt to local preferences while maintaining quality. This freedom is key. It means the food isn't dictated entirely by corporate policies, but by culinary intuition. That's what separates these places from the chains that have lost their way. They still allow the people cooking the food to have a say in how it's made. They haven't turned their kitchens into assembly lines. They've kept them as spaces where food can still be treated as something personal. Even when operating at scale, they show that consistency doesn't have to mean uniformity. It can mean dependability, the assurance that no matter where you eat, the care behind the dish remains the same. Another reason these chains stand out is the atmosphere they create. Italian cuisine is about more than taste. It's about emotion, connection, and tradition. These restaurants understand that and build spaces that feel welcoming rather than mechanical. You're greeted with warmth, not scripted politeness. The lights are soft, the music familiar, and the experience evokes togetherness rather than transaction. It feels like dining, not consuming. The food is served with the intention of creating memory, not just satisfying hunger. This emotional connection is something that fast and overly commercialized chains can't replicate because it comes from sincerity, not marketing strategy. Perhaps the most impressive thing about these better chains is their commitment to balance. They know they can't be a small family-run trattoria, but they don't let that stop them from honoring the traditions of one. They find ways to scale without stripping away character. It's not perfect. They still operate within corporate frameworks. But there's an awareness of responsibility that comes with serving something as culturally rich as Italian food. They treat recipes with respect, ingredients with care, and customers with honesty. In a world where convenience has become the standard, these chains prove that good food doesn't have to be a luxury. It can be accessible without being artificial, efficient without being soulless. They remind people that a meal should be more than a product. It should be an experience built on craft, culture, and connection. Their success is a quiet rebellion against the industrialization of taste, showing that authenticity can survive, even within the system. Food is more than just something we eat to survive. It's a reflection of culture, care, and creativity. The story of pasta chains losing their identity is not just about restaurants. It's about how easily people accept mediocrity when it's wrapped in convenience and familiarity. Real pasta, in its truest form, represents simplicity done with precision. Doesn't need gimmicks or endless varieties to stand out. It only needs quality ingredients, the right balance of flavor, and a cook who understands patience. But when businesses begin prioritizing profit over passion, that delicate balance disappears. The moment a recipe becomes a product, the artistry behind it fades. What should be an experience of taste and emotion turns into something mechanical, repetitive, and hollow. The lesson hidden in the decline of these pasta chains is simple. People should never settle for less when it comes to something that defines human connection. Every dish carries a story, and when that story is replaced with standardization, something essential is lost. Most diners have grown used to fast food disguised as fine dining because it's marketed well and easily accessible. The presentation might look authentic, but real flavor cannot be faked. You can't mass-produce soul or bottle passion for efficiency. The difference between handmade pasta and prepackaged noodles isn't just texture, it's intention. One is made to nourish and delight, the other to maintain margins and speed. When the public accepts the second as normal, the standard for food and for experience drops for everyone. True Italian food has never been about luxury. It was born from simplicity and love, using basic ingredients transformed through time and care. Olive oil, garlic, tomatoes, and flour come together not through complexity, but through respect. That's what chain restaurants often forget. Their focus shifts from flavor to logistics, from creativity to cost. Each decision becomes a calculation rather than an act of passion. This approach might keep the business running, but it erodes what makes dining meaningful. When people eat without thought or emotion, food stops being art and becomes just another transaction. The danger is not only in losing flavor, but in losing appreciation for what good food represents: time, patience, and craft. Choosing quality doesn't always mean choosing expensive restaurants. It means being aware of what you consume and valuing authenticity over marketing. A small local Italian cafe that takes time to make its own sauce offers more truth in a single plate than a large chain serving thousands of frozen meals a day. Supporting such places keeps the art of real cooking alive. It also reminds diners what good food truly tastes like: fresh, balanced, and soulful. When people rediscover that difference, they begin to demand better, and the market responds. The only reason mediocrity thrives is that it's accepted without question. Once awareness grows, real craftsmanship can make its return, even in a world dominated by fast-paced convenience. Every pasta dish tells a story of culture, patience, and pride. When that story is ignored, the food becomes meaningless. But when it's honored, it connects people across generations. The real lesson behind the rise and fall of pasta chains is not just about which restaurants to avoid. It's about reclaiming appreciation for authenticity in a world that constantly chooses shortcuts. Food is one of the last places where people can still taste honesty. That honesty is worth protecting. Whether it's in a small kitchen at home or a restaurant that still believes in the art of cooking, the message is the same. Never let efficiency erase passion. Never let imitation replace tradition. And never let good enough become the new definition of great. Modern dining has become less about nourishment and more about efficiency. The art of cooking, especially something as symbolic as Italian pasta, has been caught in the wave of commercialization that prioritizes profit and speed over tradition and taste. In many restaurants, food is no longer crafted but manufactured. The kitchen, once the heart of creativity and warmth, has been reduced to a system of timers, portion sizes, and standardized recipes. This shift reflects more than just a change in the food industry. It mirrors how people have become comfortable with convenience, even when it costs authenticity. The experience of eating out used to mean discovering new flavors or enjoying the care someone put into preparing a meal. Now, it's often just about getting something familiar, fast, and affordable. There is a growing numbness among consumers who have forgotten what real quality feels like. The average diner no longer expects handmade pasta or fresh sauce because they've grown used to the taste of processed, prepackaged food. When enough people settle for less, mediocrity becomes the standard, and businesses no longer feel the need to strive for excellence. This isn't only a loss for cuisine, it's a loss for culture. Food, at its best, tells a story of people, place, and patience. The moment it becomes a product designed for mass consumption, that story is erased. The true tragedy is not that fast, flavorless pasta exists, but that so many have accepted it as normal. The path forward isn't about rejecting progress or convenience, but about remembering the value of intention. Real Italian food, and real cooking in general, depend on respect for ingredients and technique. A chef who spends time crafting a dish brings something intangible to the plate: emotion. That emotion is what connects diners to the experience, turning a simple meal into a memory. When you take that away, food becomes hollow. Yet not all is lost. A quiet movement of chefs, small restaurants, and mindful consumers continues to fight against the tide, bringing attention back to authenticity. They remind the world that eating is not just about feeding the body, but about appreciating life's details. The texture of freshly made pasta, the aroma of basil crushed by hand, the warmth of something made with care. In the end, it comes down to choice. Every person who chooses authenticity over imitation sends a message that real craftsmanship still matters. Every restaurant that refuses to compromise proves that passion can exist alongside profit. The return to meaningful dining doesn't require grand gestures. It starts with awareness and appreciation. When people demand better, the system adapts. The survival of authentic cuisine depends not on nostalgia but on intention. The willingness to slow down, to taste, to care. Food is one of the simplest yet most powerful ways humans express love, and that love deserves more than shortcuts.